What is effective prayer?
Yes, ordinarily, I would have loved to tell you what effective prayer is without telling you what prayer is.
Okay.
But owing to the fact that, we may think that everybody knows what prayer is. So it's better we begin by knowing what prayer is.
My
so
bad.
that we don't take it for granted that everybody knows what prayer is.
Okay.
So, and in simple language, prayer is, communication with God.
Yes.
In a way, you could even say prayer is a relationship with God. Then coming down to effective prayer, what an effective prayer is, I'd want to take us back to the Gospel of Luke, chapter 11, from verse 1 to 4. There we are told that Jesus went to pray, and when he was done praying, he returned back to his disciples. And one of them walked to him and said, "Teacher, teach us to pray." Just as John taught his disciples how to pray, And it was there that Jesus gave us what we have today as the Lord's Prayer, the Our Father. And, in the Catholic Church, we say this prayer every day at Mass, every day at Mass. And every effective prayer has to hinge on the Lord's Prayer. Because the Lord's Prayer is not just a prayer, it is a pattern of prayer.
Okay.
Because in it, there are different kinds of prayer.
Okay, can we go into those different kinds of prayer?
Beautiful.
Yes.
So now, going back to the Lord's Prayer, Jesus said to them, when you pray, say, "Our Father." Now, beginning with the first word Jesus used there, "our." If you look at it, it is a pronoun.
Yes.
But Jesus did not use the first person,
He didn't say
singular.
my Father,
He didn't say, when you pray, say, "My Father." But he said, when you pray, say, "Our Father." And what that simply means is every prayer should not just be vertical. It is both vertical and horizontal. In other words, it is cross-like. It is not just a relationship between you and God, but when you pray, always remember that you are not the only person existing in the world.
Oh, okay.
You get it? So when you pray, always have others at heart.
In mind, yes.
So the first word Jesus used there is, when you pray, say, "Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be your name, your kingdom come." Now, looking at all these words that marks the beginning of, the Lord's Prayer, God is being praised.
Yeah, exalted, yes.
God is being exalted. So, and if you look at it critically, Jesus is saying, when you pray, learn to glorify God first.
So now, what is spiritual maturity all about?
Okay, thank you, Noso. Now, when you talk about spiritual maturity, when you look at that expression, spiritual maturity, two things come to mind. That is, we have two variables there.
Yes.
We have the word spiritual, and then we have maturity. And when you talk about maturity, in a way, you already are making reference to the fact that, there was maybe an infancy narrative. You get it? That is, when we we can relate it to the human person. There was a time you were just a fetus, and then gradually, you
grew
came into
up,
the world.
Yeah, exactly.
You were a toddler, from an infant, a toddler, you grew up, and then here you are today, a mature individual. So what that simply means is that they're involved, these stages, they were stages of growth. Stages of growth. So in spiritual maturity, we are talking about, spiritual growth, okay? At some point in time, we were neophytes.
What's that?
Yeah, at some point in time, we were babies.
Okay.
We were like infants. Perhaps we were baptized as an infant.
Yeah, it was.
Good. There were some persons that were baptized not as infants, but, they grew up and, they expressed their faith. And, it's one of the challenges that sometimes we face from people of other denominations.
Yeah, the questions.
Yes, the question of infant baptism. That why wouldn't you allow a child to grow and then seek for baptism before you baptize such an individual? So spiritual maturity has to do with the fact that there was a stage, or there was a time in our life that we were like babies. And then gradually we are growing and growing. Spiritual maturity, I take us again back to what I spoke about baptism.
Okay.
At baptism, even if you were baptized an infant, there were those who stood on your behalf, your parents and your godparents. And then they were asked the question, do you reject Satan? And on your behalf, they answered, yes. But before that, they would be instructed that make sure as you are standing on behalf of this child, make sure that you monitor every stage in the life of this very child. Make sure that she grows or he grows according to the fear and according to the precepts of God. And if you are baptized as an adult, you also would be asked, do you reject Satan? And then on your own, you answer for yourself.
Yes.
I do. So spiritual maturity has to do with you asking yourself, is my life really reflecting the promises, the baptismal promises that I made at my baptism?